Hello everybody, Keith here again. Another repotting video this time. This is a plant that I won at a raffle at one of the East Midlands Orchid Society meetings earlier in 2020 before we had lockdown. Now at the time, this new growth was very small, and because it was in this stuff, this peaty tackle, I was going to repot it straight away. And I think it was Insta Shap who said, wait until the new growth is putting roots out, otherwise you'll risk the whole plant. Now okay, it was only £1 or so for the raffle tickets, but at the end of the day I thought, well, I can't lose a lot and I might learn a bit as well. So learnt several things with this this compost. The first and probably the most obvious is what you don't do is soak it. I pour a little bit of water around the top, and as soon as it starts to percolate through the bottom, that's it. I give it enough, and this stuff, a bit like moss, will very quickly even that moisture out, spread it throughout the whole mass, and you'll do fine. The other thing which I've learnt through working with it is that it's very good at retaining moisture, and as Roger and other people have said at different times, it's great if you're in an environment where you get very high evaporation rates, which of course in this country, in the UK, we don't. We do sometimes. Like a week ago, when the temperature in here was into the low 30 centigrade, so around the 100 Fahrenheit mark, certainly into the 90s, and humidities in the low 30s or high 20s. So yeah, then it was drying out quite fast. But normally, like now, when it's 26 degrees in here, so high 70s probably, and 37%, overnight it was down to 16, and it was 65% when I came in at 6:30 this morning. Then it's not drying out very fast at all. But what I found was, when I was watching it, the base of these pseudobulbs were turning black. But they were buried quite a long way deep. So I got the blunt end of my tweezers and basically scraped it back to just above the very bottom of the pseudobulbs, and that stopped it. And this new growth, you can just about see there, I think, has started putting roots out. So now's the time to have a go. Now, what is it? Well, it came with the very useful label of Odontoglossum, which it isn't, although it may have many characteristics of that. That is all the info that you get with it. In fact, because I've already got one and Roger's got one, it's Aliceara Marfitch Renaissaince Coral, which is another good reason for trying to keep it, because these flowers, as you can see from that picture on the side of the pot that somebody's helpfully put there, this is a drop dead gorgeous hybrid. So first things first, let's see what we've got in here. Now this is going to be wet because was only watered 2 or 3 days ago, and it looks as if what I was doing, which is not watering it too much, has paid off, because it's not wringing wet. It's damp, yes, and if it isn't a Odontoglossum type, it'll like that. That'll be absolutely fine. But no, flowering spike and some old leaves, I'll have those out of the way for a start. But overall, this has got the makings of a nice plant. In fact, it's got the makings of a very nice plant. Not that I can zoom it in and you'll still be able to see what I'm up to. But as I scrape this stuff away, yeah, there are some dead roots. Well, we really expect that, don't we? But it's got to be said, there are some very, very nice roots as well, which I'm very, very pleased to see. Now, I suspect, because of the nature of this stuff, the best way to get rid of it is going to be to rinse it under the tap. So I'll go and do that. But right, let me show you. This is what I was talking about. The outer leaves, where it was exposed to the moisture, those outer bracts, I think they're properly called, were dying off, and that was doing the plant no good at all, which is why I scraped it back. You can see it was actually somewhere up here, and I've pulled it down there, so it certainly isn't going to need to be anything like that deep after it's repotted. And I've got to really decide what I'm going to put it in. I mean, the logical thing to put it into would be moss, because then it would be an almost seamless transition. Oh hello, there's the moss plug. There's the moss plug. Oh, lovely. Oh, now that's a surprise. And what I think is going to be a new growth coming off this old bulb, and we've actually got a new root that must be coming off one of the older bulbs as well, so that's good news. So I am going to finish cleaning this up, and then I'll come back and we'll have a better look at it. So I'll see you soon. Okay, that's cleaned it up and trimmed it. There was quite a sizable moss plug underneath the middle of the plant, so it's obviously been grown from a seedling or something very small. But I think quite remarkably, probably because it has got Odontoglossum in it, or it's certainly got something in it that likes moisture, the roots weren't that bad. So I've trimmed it up. That's a reasonable root system. We've got some nice ones coming there and some coming out elsewhere, and we've got a new growth promising there. So I'm going to put it back in a pot like that, and I'm going to use a bark moss mix. I'm not going to use too much moss, but I think it's going to need some. I can't go from something that's as moisture retentive as what it's been in to plain bark. That will be a tremendous shock to the system, but I think it might benefit from being able to dry out a little bit quicker. So I'll do that. I'll mix some bark and moss, and I'll see about starting to to pot it up. I want to take off some of the lower bracts and things because it's not very good from where it's been sat in the damp before, but I think overall I'm sure you can agree that that's in quite nice condition. So another quick break and then we'll come back and do a repot. Right, I've prepared this bark and moss mix. It's very roughly 1/3 moss to 2/3 bark. I'm going to put some of that in the bottom to try and get some of the, keep the drainage going. Now this is the pot it came out of, so it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm hoping there'll be enough moss in here to give it something to find. It'll retain moisture between waterings, but not too much. I keep most of my orchids in plain bark of various sizes. I use coarser bark for plants like Phalaenopsis and Renaissaince and such like that have got very thick roots, and I use smaller bark for things like this, some of the dendrobiums, oncidium types like this one, although this has got quite good roots. Now then, that's ended up not being quite enough to get all of it, but I think, given that there's plenty of moss in the mix, I'm just going to top dress it with bark, because I don't want a lot of moisture up under the bulbs. Now this could end up being a mistake. I've got some oncidium types. There's a brassia that I've got, Brassia chieftain, and I've discovered this year that it really likes moisture around the roots on a new pseudobulb. When it starts putting roots out, it wants to go into moisture virtually straight away, and if it climbs a bit, which that one tends to do, then what you're going to end up with is a plant where the roots on the pseudobulb die off, and it doesn't put the roots out until quite late on in the process. So if you lose them, then you've very possibly lost that growth, and you certainly won't do the plant any good, even if it manages to feed from the older pseudobulb and develop something else. But since I put some moss around the base of the pseudobulb, it's done far better. So it's a case of, again, as good old Rogers said, and I heartily endorse, don't read the books, read your plants. See what works, try and remember, or better still record what you've done, and if you get it wrong and the plant is distressed, well, best thing is to do something about it. So, another fairly quick repot of Aliceara Marfitch Renaissaince coral, and I hope that this now will really kick on now. It's got some nice fresh compost, and it's got going to have some moss down there, something to give the roots somewhere to go. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon.